Hey there, my Stampin' friends. Susan here with Pumpkin Hill Stampers. I have a Stampin' Show and Tell to share with you today for my Make It Monday project. This one is actually a card I've made for a demo swap with my demo team, and the challenge was to make something green from current collection of our stamp sets. So I'm using the Forever Fern from the annual catalog. Now, this is the end of April. I think the list for retiring has just been posted, so the set might be retiring, but I don't know when I'm shooting the video. So you'll have to check that out to make sure you're not going to miss out on grabbing the set, just in case it is on the retiring list. So I'm using Forever Fern for my images, and then I'm going to be using the Stepping Stones Sentiments, which is from the Spring Mini Catalog, and that catalog does definitely end at the end of April. So if you like the sentiments in this set, you want to make sure you pick that up before the end of next month. Okay, so greens. So I picked 4 different greens. I've got Pear Pizzazz, Garden Green, Shaded Spruce, and Granny Apple Green. And what I'm going to use is use 4 different images, one with each color for my background and my tag. But then I'm also going to be stamping 4 panels at once and then cutting them into 4 separate cards. So let me go ahead and do the stamping first, and then I'll show you how I pull this card together with these different greens for my demo swatch challenge. Okay, so the first thing I did was I took my 8.5 by 11 basic white cardstock and I scored it. You can see these a little better than those, but I've scored it at 4 and 4.5, so there's 4-inch sections on either side, and then I scored it at 5 1/4 and 5 3/4. Okay, and what that did was it gave me this kind of center line both directions, so that when I stamp on it I can visually see where my 4 panels are. Okay, so let me go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with Garden Green, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp my images so that they are kind of overlapping on the 2 sides of that scored off section, but it'll be on both panels. And then I'm just going to rotate my cardstock as I go. So they're going to be similar, but they're going to be slightly different as well. So depending on how much I tip or angle my image will depend on how much of it you see. And if you want more, you could always stamp it twice on either side. So whichever way you want to do it. Okay, the next one I'm going to do is actually this one, the Shaded Spruce. So here, I'm just going to build up my leaves, kind of going along and overlapping my images. Okay, so there's the second one. My third one is the Pear Pizzazz, and I've got these little pods this time that are going to kind of pop in. Let's see, go like this. Actually, I'm going to put 2 of these on. Feeling more that way too. So as you go, you might decide how you want to stamp it. And like I said, every time you do it, it's going to be different. Not to mention every corner you do might be a little bit different. So don't try to make them exactly the same, right? These are handmade cards. They're all going to be slightly different, slightly unique, and that's fine. Okay, so the last one is my Granny Apple Green. And these are going to be meeting kind of right in the corner. So I'm just going to let this fill in that corner section of my spray of greens. And don't worry about how much they're overlapping on that center score section, because that's all going to get cut away. So we don't really need to worry about that. Okay, so there we go. There are all my Forever Fern images. So now what I do is I'm going to take it to my paper trimmer, and I'm going to cut these down. So the first thing I did was I cut them down just like if I was cutting my cardstock in half. So I'm going to go 5 1/2, and then I'm going to go 4 1/4. So if I wanted to use it as my full front, right, I'd have full cards. But I did score those sections in the middle for my overlapping stamps, and I'm going to trim those off. So I'm just going to finish this one at 4 1/4. Okay, so now I've got my four original stamp panels. Okay, but now I'm going to cut these down. So I'm just going to work with one of them at this point, but I would be doing it to all of them. So now I'm going to come back in and I'm going to go ahead and cut this at 4, but I'm actually going to go just slightly less than 4, and that's just so that I'm cutting off the score line completely. Okay, and then this one is 5 1/4, so just shy of 5 1/4. Okay, now I really like to inset my panel, so what I ended up doing was I cut it down to 5 by 3 3/4, but now I'm going to trim off the white edge. So I'm just going to come in here, so right, the blank edge. So I'm going to come in here and put that at 5, and then I'm going to put it at 3 3/4. Okay, so now I've got this panel that's got all this stamped edging on it with all my varying greens, but it's going to sit nicely on my shaded spruce panel. Okay, so I have a basic white card, just standard size, and I took my shaded spruce panel, which is the full size of the front of the card, where I'm covering completely, but I've gone and put it through my emboss machine with stitched greenery dye, which puts all these fun stitched leaves on there. So I've got a nice textured background. So instead of going with plain, which you could just go with the flat plain cardstock, I'm going to step it up a little and go with the embossed panel. So I'm going to go ahead and add that now, just to eliminate some of the moving parts here. So I'm just going to add my liquid adhesive right to the front of my card. Make sure it's not too thick near the edges, otherwise it'll squirt out a little bit. But make sure it's close to the edges so it also sticks down. Alright, and then I'm going to put this down on top. Because it's liquid adhesive, I have a little bit of time for wiggle room so I can get my placement on there nice and square. And I'm just going to press that down. Sometimes I flip it over and press it down this way. That way I don't have any glue getting on my fingers. Okay, so there's the front of my card, and then this panel is going to go here. I'm not going to put that on quite yet because I have another panel. So I have basic white, and I went ahead and cut it with my Scallop Contours die because I wanted kind of a fancy tag. And I'm going to come in and stamp my sentiment. So I'm going to use my Garden Green ink, and I'm going to stamp this one. I'm going to go kind of right in the middle of that stitched rectangle. So there's that. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of greenery on my edges here, just to kind of fill it in. Okay, so that's the same as my front, and that I'm going to put right there in the middle. And I am going to pop that up on dimensionals. So I'm just going to flip this over, put my dimensionals down. But now I'm going to do one more thing. It's got the texture background, it's got the popped up sentiment, right? It's got my stamped, but I'm just going to add a little bit of ribbon. So this is actually a 5th green. This is soft seafoam seam binding, but it coordinates, right? Stampin' Up! Is great with its coordinating colors, and because all these colors are just slightly off from the previous one, they all coordinate really well. So here, I'm just going to flip this over. I'm going to wrap this around like that. So I'm not going to adhere it on the front. I'm just going to flip it over. Now I'm just going to add adhesive, like I normally would, to the back of my panel. And then I'm going to stick this down with my adhesive. If you feel better, you could put a little Scotch tape on there, or tear and tape, whatever you want. Sometimes if I pop this panel up on dimensionals, I'll just put dimensionals over my ribbon. But this time I don't want to pop it up, I just want it to be adhered down flat. So I just fold that down, and then I'm going to put this in the center of my panel there, so everything's framed up. And then I've got my tag. So I'll just take off my little backers. My scallop tag is going to go down here in the corner. So everything just kind of steps in and overlaps. And then this little piece I have, I'm just slipping that underneath. Remember, I didn't hair the front of that ribbon, so now I can just wrap this under and give it a simple little knot. Tug that tight. Give it a little bit of a bow there on the edge. And then just bring your edges up together and trim them off. Make them the same length. And there we go. There's our card. So, I hope you enjoyed it. Kind of fun little stamping, layering, texturing, all in greens, which is always kind of fun to just kind of do something in the monochromatic idea here. And I really do like these sentiments that are in this Stepping Stones stamp set from the Spring Occasions catalog, so make sure you check those out before they're gone. Alright everybody, remember you can find more information on my blog post. The link is in the comments below. You can sign up for my newsletter, and you can definitely subscribe right here to YouTube for my channel so you don't miss out on any other fun projects I am sharing with you. Alright guys, if you need any questions answered, leave them here or email me directly and I will get back to you. Do some fun stamping today, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!